Welcome to Karen Stories. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to never miss a crazy story. Let's dive in. I should have known something was off the moment I saw her. The park was alive with laughter, the air thick with the mingling scents of sun-warmed grass and melting popsicles. My daughter, Jessica, raced toward the swings with unrestrained glee, her tiny feet kicking up dust as she called for me to push her. It was supposed to be a perfect day, one of those rare, golden afternoons where nothing else in the world mattered except her giggles and the sunlight catching in her curls. But then I saw her. A woman, mid-50s, the unmistakable haircut perched atop her head like a battle standard. She was watching me. No, not watching, evaluating. Eyes narrowed, lips pursed, a rigid posture that screamed disapproval. I knew the look. I'd seen it before in grocery store aisles, at school meetings, in line at the post office. The kind of woman who inserted herself into situations that did not concern her, wielding her perception of propriety like a weapon. A classic Karen. I tried to ignore her. After all, what reason could she possibly have to concern herself with a father enjoying the park with his child? But as I lifted my phone to snap a picture of Jessica mid-swing, her mouth open in pure delight, the golden hour glow making her look almost ethereal, the woman moved. Fast. She was on me in seconds, her shadow cutting across the bright afternoon like a storm rolling in. "Excuse me," she snapped, her voice carrying the sharpness of someone who hadn't been told no nearly as often as she should have. "What exactly do you think you're doing?" I blinked, momentarily thrown off by the sheer force of her presence. "I'm taking a picture of my daughter," I replied, my confusion genuine. Karen's nostrils flared. "You mean you're taking pictures of random children?" Her tone dropped, slow and deliberate, each syllable soaked in manufactured outrage. My stomach twisted. "No, my daughter. That's my daughter right there." I pointed at Jessica, who had since noticed the intrusion and was now watching us with uncertainty. Karen's eyes flicked to Jessica, her expression unreadable for a moment. Then, she smirked, like she had just caught me in a lie. "Really?" she drawled, crossing her arms. "Because I didn't see her run up to you. I didn't see her call you Dad." I felt heat rise in my chest, a burning anger at the audacity, the sheer arrogance of this woman. "She doesn't have to perform for you. She's my kid." Karen let out a sharp, theatrical laugh. "Well, I think the police would be very interested to know what you're doing here." My fingers tightened around my phone. "Are you serious? You're calling the cops on a father taking pictures of his own daughter?" "I'm keeping the children safe," she said, her voice dripping with sanctimonious venom. "You can never be too careful these days. Men like you think you can just loiter around playgrounds, snapping pictures of whoever you please. Men like me?" The accusation slammed into me like a physical blow. The insinuation curled its fingers around my throat. I had heard stories, seen the viral videos, read the horror tales in comment sections, but never did I think it would happen to me. Jessica, sensing my distress, abandoned the swings and ran straight into my arms. "Papa, can we go home?" she asked, her small hands clutching at my shirt. Her voice was quiet, uncertain. That should have been enough. Any sane person would have seen that was enough, but Karen took a step back and screamed, "Oh my God, he has a child with him." The entire park froze. Mothers turned. Fathers stood up from benches. A group of teenagers stopped mid-game. Karen pointed an accusatory finger at me, eyes wide with manufactured horror. "He's taking pictures of kids. Call the police." Jessica clung to me tighter, her body shaking. My mind raced. Do I run? Do I stay? What's the protocol when you're being publicly branded a predator by an unhinged suburban warrior on a moral crusade? Then, as if answering my unspoken question, the distant wail of sirens filled the air. My blood ran cold. Karen's lips curled into a victorious smile. I was screwed. I could hear my heartbeat pounding in my ears as the sirens grew louder. Every rational part of my brain screamed at me to stay calm, to breathe, to not make a scene. But how the hell was I supposed to do that, when an entire park full of people was now looking at me like I was a monster? Karen stood there, arms crossed over her chest, her lips curled in self-satisfaction. She had won before the cops even arrived. It didn't matter that my daughter was still clinging to me, her little hands shaking. It didn't matter that I had done nothing wrong. The moment that woman screamed, the moment she painted me as some kind of deviant, the court of public opinion had already reached its verdict. I was guilty. Jessica looked up at me, her big, trusting eyes filled with confusion and fear. "Papa, why is everyone staring?" I swallowed hard, forcing a smile that I didn't feel. "It's okay, sweetheart. Just stay close to me. I wanted to pick her up, to hold her tight and shield her from the weight of every disgusted glare being thrown my way. But I knew better. Anything I did now could be used against me. If I grabbed my daughter, I could already hear Karen shrieking about me snatching a child. If I ran, I might as well be admitting guilt. If I fought back, God forbid I wouldn't make it out of here without handcuffs. So I stood my ground. I waited. The cop car screeched to a stop just beyond the playground. And 2 officers stepped out. A male officer with a hardened expression, and a female officer who, for a fleeting moment, gave me the impression that she at least wanted to assess the situation before throwing me in the back of a squad car. Karen wasted no time. She stormed toward them like she had been waiting for this moment her entire life, her voice dripping with the self-righteous indignation of someone who was absolutely convinced she was saving the day. "Officer," she gasped, pointing at me like she was unveiling some grand criminal. "That man has been taking pictures of children. I saw him. He was watching them, photographing them, God knows what else. He's dangerous." I opened my mouth, but she cut me off, turning to the growing crowd. "Did anyone else see him?" Murmurs rippled through the group. A few hesitant nods. A couple of uncertain glances. Nobody actually saw anything. But when someone yells fire in a crowded theater, people don't stop to check if there's actually smoke. They just react. And right now, I was the one burning. The male officer fixed me with a cold stare. "Sir, is this your child?" "Yes," I said firmly, standing taller. "Jessica is my daughter. You can ask her yourself." The female officer crouched slightly to Jessica's level. "Sweetie, is this your daddy?" Jessica, to her credit, didn't hesitate. She nodded and buried her face against my side. "Yes. He's my papa." A flicker of something doubt crossed the officer's face. But before she could say anything, Karen let out a scoff so loud, I swear half the damn park heard it. "Oh, please." She could be scared. He could have told her to say that. Check his phone. Ignore what I saw. Check my phone. My entire body went rigid at the implication. The male officer stepped closer. "Sir, would you be willing to let us see your phone?" I wanted to say no. God. I wanted to refuse on principle alone. But I also knew what that would look like. I knew exactly what Karen wanted me to do. She wanted me to fight. She wanted me to protest so she could twist it into more fuel for her moral crusade. If I refused, I might as well have been admitting that I had something to hide. So, jaw clenched, I pulled my phone out of my pocket and handed it over. The officers scrolled through my pictures in silence. A dozen shots of Jessica on the swings. A blurry one where she had been mid-jump off the slide. A close-up of her smiling face, covered in melted ice cream, from earlier in the day. Every single picture was of my daughter. I exhaled slowly, watching as the female officer's lips pressed into a tight line. She turned back to Karen. "Ma'am, all of these images are of his child. There's no wrongdoing here." Karen blinked. Once, twice. Then she threw her hands up in exasperation. "Oh, so what? Now you're just going to let him go? Do you have any idea how many predators try to blend in like this? They bring a kid along, pretend to be a parent. It's textbook." I stared at her, incredulous. This woman had just been proven wrong, but instead of apologizing, instead of stepping back, she doubled down. I was still the villain in her story. "Ma'am," the male officer said, his voice edged with irritation now. "Unless you have actual evidence that a crime has been committed, we can't detain this man." Karen scoffed. "Unbelievable. I hope you all can live with yourselves when something actually happens, because you refuse to act." And with that, she stormed off, huffing like she had just been personally betrayed by the entire justice system. The officers handed me back my phone. The female officer, at least, had the decency to look uncomfortable. "Sorry for the misunderstanding, sir. You're free to go." I nodded stiffly. "Thanks." As they walked away, I knelt down and hugged Jessica tight. Her tiny arms wrapped around my neck, and I could feel her little heart pounding just as fast as mine. "Can we go home now, Papa?" she whispered. I kissed the top of her head, my anger still simmering, my mind still reeling from what had just happened. "Yeah, sweetheart. We're going home." Because suddenly, the park didn't feel so safe anymore. The drive home felt longer than it should have. Every red light stretched for eternity. Every passing glance from other drivers felt like silent judgment. My hands were clenched so tightly around the steering wheel that my knuckles turned white. Jessica sat quietly in the back seat. Far too quiet for a 6-year-old who had just spent an afternoon at the park. That wasn't normal. She wasn't normal right now. And I knew exactly why. The damage had been done. I pulled into our driveway and shut off the engine, exhaling slowly in an attempt to force some of the tension out of my body. It didn't work. Jessica hesitated before unbuckling her seatbelt, her tiny hands fumbling more than usual. Finally, she looked up at me with eyes filled with something I never wanted to see there. Fear. Papa. Am I in trouble? My breath caught in my throat. What? No, sweetheart. Why would you be in trouble? She shifted uncomfortably in her booster seat. The lady at the park was mad at you. And the police came. Does that mean you did something bad? I felt like I had been punched in the gut. No. Worse, like something inside me had been ripped apart and left in pieces I could never put back together. How do you explain to a child that some people are just wrong? That no matter how innocent you are, someone can still look at you and decide you're guilty? I unbuckled her seatbelt and lifted her into my arms, holding her close as I carried her inside. No, baby. I didn't do anything bad. That lady was just confused. And she made a big mistake. Jessica buried her face into my shoulder. But she called the police on you. Police only come when someone is bad. I closed my eyes, swallowing the lump in my throat. Not always, sweetheart. Sometimes people get scared for no reason, and they make bad choices. But I promise you, Papa is not bad, and I will always keep you safe. Okay? She nodded, but I could feel the doubt lingering in her little body, in the way she clung to me a little tighter than usual. That night, after I tucked her into bed, I sat in the living room, staring at nothing in particular. The entire day replayed in my head like a film reel stuck on repeat. The accusations, the stares, the police officers scrolling through my phone, as if my innocence was something I had to prove. And then it got worse. A notification popped up on my phone, one of those community watch Facebook groups. I clicked it, and my stomach dropped. Warning: suspicious man taking pictures of kids at the park. The post was accompanied by a blurry, zoomed-in photo of me mid-conversation with the police officers. My face twisted with frustration. The comments poured in faster than I could read them. Disgusting. Keep your kids close. Ladies, why wasn't he arrested? I knew something was off about him when I saw him there. If you see this guy near a school, call the cops immediately. My hands shook as I scrolled. It didn't matter that the cops had cleared me. It didn't matter that I had done nothing wrong. The damage was already spreading like wildfire. Then I saw it. A comment from her. Karen. The woman who had done this to me. I just knew something was off about him. Mothers, stay vigilant. We need to protect our children at all costs. I gritted my teeth so hard my jaw ached. She wasn't just some random busybody at the park anymore. She was actively destroying my reputation, painting me as a danger to the community, a threat. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. I knew what I had to do. I hit reply. That's interesting. Because the police checked my phone and found nothing inappropriate. Every single picture was of my daughter. You, on the other hand, falsely accused an innocent man and terrified a 6-year-old. You should be ashamed of yourself. I hit send and waited. It didn't take long. Karen's response came fast, laced with condescension. Truly innocent man wouldn't be this defensive. I did what any responsible adult would do. If you don't like being suspected, maybe don't act so suspiciously. More replies followed. Some defending me, but most backing her up. The seed had already been planted. It didn't matter that I had the truth on my side. Perception was reality, and Karen had made sure that mine was twisted into something monstrous. Then my phone rang. It was my boss. Hey, we need to talk. I just got a call from HR. Someone sent them a complaint about you. I closed my eyes, a sinking feeling dragging me down. A complaint? What are you talking about? Look, I know this is ridiculous, but apparently someone from the community is claiming you're a known risk to children. HR is saying they have to look into it. You might want to stay home for a few days until this blows over. I gripped the phone so tightly I thought it might crack. This is insane. I was at the park with my own daughter. I know, man. I know. But people talk. And when HR gets complaints like this, their hands are tied. I hung up without another word. My job, my reputation, my ability to take my daughter to the park without looking over my shoulder. Karen had taken all of it in the span of a single afternoon. And the worst part? There wasn't a damn thing I could do about it. I wish I could say the nightmare ended there. That after a few days, the online accusations faded, my job reinstated me without question. And Karen learned her lesson. That justice prevailed, and I could return to the simple life of being a father who just wanted to take his daughter to the park, without fear of being branded a predator. But life isn't a feel-good movie, where the villain faces poetic justice in the final act. Reality is crueler. The HR investigation dragged on. I spent 2 weeks on unpaid leave, while they reviewed the anonymous complaint against me. It didn't matter that the police had already cleared me. It didn't matter that I had proof, witnesses, even the officers themselves, willing to confirm my innocence. The stain was already there. In today's world, suspicion alone is enough to ruin you. Jessica wouldn't stop asking questions. Papa, can we go to the park again? Each time, I found an excuse. Not today, sweetheart. Maybe next weekend. But the truth was, I was scared. Not of another Karen, not even of another confrontation, but of the quiet whispers. The lingering stares. The parents pulling their kids away the second I got too close. My name had been posted. My face had been shared. Even after the Facebook thread died down, the damage remained. It's easy for people to forget an online scandal. It's harder to erase suspicion once it's been planted in real life. Then, one evening, I got a message. An unknown number. The words sent a chill down my spine. You're being watched. We know what you are. That was it. No threats. No names. Just a simple sentence dripping with paranoia and hate. The kind of message that makes your skin crawl, because you know that someone out there believes it. And that's all it takes. One person convinced they're doing the right thing. One person acting on a lie. I installed cameras around the house that night. A week later, HR finally reached their decision. Due to a lack of sufficient evidence, we have decided not to pursue any further action against you at this time. Note innocent. Not wrongfully accused. Just not enough evidence to fire me. Like I was still under suspicion. Like the stink of Karen's accusation would follow me forever. I should have felt relief. Instead, I felt exhausted. Months passed. Jessica stopped asking about the park. I started avoiding community events. People forgot, or at least, they pretended to. But I never did. Because all it takes is one Karen, one accusation, one moment of self-righteous entitlement to strip you of everything. I learned a brutal lesson that day. The scariest part about false accusations isn't proving your innocence. It's realizing that you might never be able to.